Hi, Shobhika, and welcome to the About Her show. Now, this is a show which is about trailblazing women. We give them a platform to talk about the story of their lives, their journeys, ups and downs, challenges that they may have faced along the way. And not only do they get to talk about themselves, but by sharing their journey, they also get to inspire women who are listening in. You know, there are so many women out there who have ambitions, dreams, aspirations, but for one reason or the other, they are not able to get to them. So we want them to listen to you, get inspired, and get out of whatever is holding them back to realize their potential. And of course, eventually, we want to build a community of women who I would love to call the About Her women, women who are there to support, mentor, empower, and be there for each other. So, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sangeeta, for having me here. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity. Agree with every word you said. So, yes, thank you once again.
You're more than welcome. Just as an icebreaker, so can you tell us a little bit about your journey, also your, early life, childhood, and if you feel that any of those experiences from your childhood paved the way for what you're doing today or, who you are today?
To begin with, I am from Varanasi, and somehow life has taken me in different corners of the country. I come from Varanasi, where I did my schooling up till 12th grade. Thereafter, I went to Mumbai. I was there in Bombay for about 5.5 to 6 years for my undergrad and then my master's. Worked around a little bit too.
Mhm.
Somehow, destiny took me to Calcutta.
Okay.
And I've also worked, interacted, and lived in Calcutta for a little while before I got married, and marriage brought me to Goa, and I've been living in Goa now for almost 11 to 12 years.
Okay.
And this is my journey. And the reason why I'm highlighting, all the places that I've lived in or been in is because I think it has formed a very critical part of that sense of empowerment, that comes with knowing what you want to do, pursuing your passions.
Yeah.
Because when you meet so many different people from so many different cultures, and when these many different cultures become a part of your existence in one way or another, it's
Mm-hmm.
only natural to want certain things and be okay with working towards achieving those goals.
Yes.
So that's been my journey more or less before I moved to Goa.
Mm-hmm.
And since I moved to Goa, I've been more proactively working as a psychologist, right from working in private setups to working for government sector, volunteer work. Till the last 8 years or so, I've been practicing in my own private practice. There is a lot of association that I do with other psychologists, psychiatrists across, in Goa as well as in other cities. But
Okay.
primarily, my work has been about, one-to-one counseling and workshops.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to answer that part of your question, that early childhood experiences that might have pushed me to, pursue this journey in life. I believe there was this one moment when I was switching schools in my city from in Varanasi itself, and I came across, now this I'm talking to you about uh, early 2000s,
Okay.
when mental health was not trending and psychology was not like a trending subject. It was always seen as an option.
Uh-huh.
When I came across what psychology was, because we had to choose a fifth optional subject in 11th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and it was literally like, read that it's about a study of human behavior and all of that it does. And it was just like, you can say, love at first understanding of the word. And I think that was a very key step in my life where I realized that, okay, this is something I want to do and I want to keep pursuing.
Okay.
I believe, luckily, from that time onwards, when I decided I want to enter this field,
Mm-hmm.
I've had professors along the way throughout my journey in Varanasi, in Bombay, and then later on when I was working in Calcutta for a little while. I've
Mm-hmm.
had people, mentors throughout my life who kept showing their faith in me that I could do this. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that is one key experience that kind of stands out for me,
Okay.
um, to just pursue what I have.
Okay. Actually, that's very important. I mean, when you kind of develop a liking or you take to something,
Yes.
to begin with, if you get an encouraging and supportive environment, it only just adds fuel, because it encourages you, motivates you, and helps you see, the positives in that and how it kind of can align, it can align with your life goals. So, yeah, that's a very important point you've made. And, it's always, I think, your teachers and mentors play a very, very critical role, because if you have a good teacher or a good mentor, then you kind of develop that liking, and you can build on that. Otherwise, you can probably just start disliking that particular
Yes.
subject. So yeah, that's a
Yes.
very important point. So tell me, when you decided to, embark on this journey of being a psychologist and mental health, so I guess you face certain challenges in your life. So if you could elaborate on some of those, and also if you feel some of those were because of your gender.
Yes, absolutely. I think gender plays a very big role. Now, I think we need a little bit of a context here. I
Okay.
come from an environment which is largely conservative. Now,
Okay.
when I say conservative, it's conservative in a very non-conventional way, that you have a freedom to do whatever you want to do in life, as
Okay.
long as career is not a priority for you. Like, okay, go ahead, work, have fun to work.
Huh.
Um, think of it as something that is like a secondary part of your life. The
Mm-hmm.
primary part has to be family, children, those traditional,
Yeah.
conventional
Yeah.
things. But when I said that it was conservative in a non-conventional way, what I meant was that I was allowed to do everything. I was allowed to go to Bombay. I was allowed, and I keep using the word allowed,
Mm.
fully aware of, the implications of that word, because I know I come from that background where I was the first woman in my entire paternal and maternal side of children, all the cousins included, who
Mhm.
went out of her birth city to study and live in a hostel.
Okay.
So again, these days these things are very normal for people to do, but I'm again talking of early 2000s, when this was still seen as, like a taboo, or was
Yeah.
not very common. Especially, I come from a small town, right? So it was not very common for something like this to happen. So I think that itself was a big struggle for me at that point of time, to push for it, that I have to go outside and I have to go to Mumbai and I have to go to Sophia's for my psychology, undergrad, and then I am going to further study and do my master. So there was that bit of a struggle in that journey itself, because it was almost like, you're allowed to do everything, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, but you can't go out of your city to study.
Yeah.
Girls of our families don't do that.
Hmm.
um, I took a drop year
Okay.
because I didn't want to stay in my city and do it. No offenses,
Of
but
course.
I just wanted something and I wanted that. And it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. So I took a drop year. And
Okay.
then, it took a bit of a convincing and stuff. And then my father was always like, I know how much you want to study. And eventually he overcame his own anxieties about sending me outside of the city. And
Mhm.
then I landed up in Mumbai. So that was the first struggle. Then a second key struggle that I believe I've always faced is, I don't come from the profession itself. Like, nobody, I come from a business family. So nobody in my immediate or extended families is actually a medical professional. So
Okay.
again, coming from a business family, choosing a career in a field which is primarily seen as a medical field also proved to be a struggle. And
Yeah.
when we come back to gender here, I think gender played a role, because at that very step, that okay, 12th grade is done and now you can't go out to study
Mhm.
because you are a girl.
Well,
Whereas my brother was already out. He was out since he was in fourth grade, he was
okay.
just out and about, and he went to the UK. So that struggle was never there for somebody of the opposite gender, but was there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe throughout the journey also, as we um, keep talking about gender or the struggles, there was this point that always comes up, and I guess it comes up for most women, that what do you choose? You have a day full of clients, therapy patients lined up at
Yeah.
the office, but your kid has fallen sick. What
Yeah.
do you choose?
Yeah.
So invariably, that labor, that mental load of getting things done, I believe, no matter what kind of environment we exist in, unfortunately, still comes down onto the women. So I think that is a constant ongoing struggle that we literally can't count on our fingers, because I think for if we were to save like $100 for every time we had to say no to something,
Yeah.
because there were other things to be taken care of, um, at home, at the family front, or at the social front, we would probably be millionaires, by now.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
that's an ongoing struggle. But the initial two struggles were these: that girl going out of the home city and finding myself in a field which was, most of my colleagues, friends were coming from the medical field. Somebody they knew or their parents were medical professionals, and then, having to come into a field which was so strongly academia and medical related.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of the listeners would really connect with this, but when you come from a business family,
Yeah.
uh, who is remotely not in both of these fields, right? Non-academia, non-medical, it's really a struggle to convince your own family that this is something worth pursuing, and then to make a mark in the field, because the privilege of networks, it doesn't exist for you at that point of time then.
I think, Shobhika, I think many, many women will relate to this because this is like, despite where we have come from where we were, we still have a long way to go in terms of the freedom and the liberty which is given to girls. You're right, education is there, but then, like I mean, you can only fly that high. You can't really go high up in the sky. So there are limitations, there are boundaries to where you can go. So that is pretty much, I think, prevalent even now. I mean, I see young girls also facing this. So I'm sure many of them can resonate. And kudos to you for, having broken all these barriers and, being able to do what you're doing because see, convincing, getting onto it. So you have to be convinced about yourself. You have to have that
Yes.
courage of conviction. So all those things, it's not easy. So you could be a great, great role model because so many girls out there want to do it. But these are some of the
Mhm.
things which hold them back. So great going, great going. So tell me, if you were to look back on your life, do you feel there was somebody out there who was a role model or a mentor who kind of, you looked up to and maybe wanted to be like them or maybe just, you know, just pick up some traits from them?
Absolutely. Like when I think of my entire journey from perhaps when the conscious mind recollects, I've
Mm.
had many, many of these people who have been extremely supportive of me in my journey, and many people I can look up to, or I have taken something from, which is a very critical part of my life at the moment, right? I think, in brief, to begin with, my mother was very clear that, she wants me to be financially independent in my life, because, again, coming from a very conservative business family kind of a setup, that was not something she had the privilege of being. So she was very clear about that. There was a time when I had, delivered my child, and, I wanted to take a break from work. I took a break for a little while from work, and very, very surprisingly, the mentor or the role model, the person who could push me that, don't take an indefinite break. You have built something, don't let it go away, was my father. And I had never expected that, he would come up and say that, look, I understand it's difficult, but you start with one client at least a week, if not a full caseload, because you have really worked hard at, building your um, career and your practice. Don't give it all away. So that kind of came as a very big push for me. But beyond my parents at different stages of life, I believe I've just been blessed with a lot of significant people, women particularly. I can think of a couple of my friends from my life at Sophia's, some of them psychologists, entrepreneurs themselves now, who really pushed me and motivated me, right? That you are good enough to do this, and don't have that doubt on yourself. I was blessed when, for the little time that I was in Calcutta, all the professionals I met from my field, and these were really established women, who gave me that nudge that, you can do it. They gave me jobs when, again, so Calcutta, I go and I don't have anybody there, right? Like I have my family, but nobody in the field of medicals, nobody in the field of academia. So I literally I used to go with my resume to schools, whether it was Lamats, whether it was, there was a counseling center called AdLife, whether it was hospitals. I used to just walk in with my resume saying, I'm going to meet people and look, this is my resume. This is what I can do. Give me a job. So I used to do that. And I landed those jobs. I landed those jobs, and those women became my mentors for the time I was in Calcutta, and something like that is very important at an early stage in our career, irrespective of gender, but more so when, there are not enough people supporting you because of your gender.
Correct.
And cut to Goa once again. I met somebody here, a very well-established psychologist, who pushed me and who told me that, there is no reason why you shouldn't start your own private practice. Just get started. And here I am. So I think there are just a lot of people along the way who supported me, mentored me, gave me the right guidance at the right time. And I think and I must not omit, like, this may sound like an award speech, but I must not omit my partner from this, because I think he gave me that silent support, that you do whatever, I'm going to be there for you in whichever way you require me to be, which is again something that we don't often acknowledge openly, because we end up only seeing the very tangible guidance that we get. The intangible one that allows us to just exist and thrive, I think that is equally important.
Really important. I agree. I mean, and especially at the home front, if you don't have the support, these are the practical issues. So suppose you have a child and the child falls sick, and if your partner is there to kind of, take over from you, that's a normal practical situation, and you do want that support. Everything else about, yes, it is there, but this is like the need of the hour, so to say. So yes,
Yes.
that support is very much required. And
Mhm.
like listening to you, I mean, I can only say that, once again, it proves that God helps those who help themselves. So you set out on that journey with that courage, with that conviction, and doors just kind of opened up for you.
Yes.
So, Shobhika, tell me, of course, you were working, for someone else before you decided to take this plunge of
Yes.
setting up your own practice. So, so that's like, of course, a business kind of a thing, in terms of entrepreneurship. So, if
Yes.
you were to share 3 tips for
Mhm.
someone wanting to start out on their own, what would those tips be?
First of all, believe in yourself. I think that is very important. And I'm not talking about an unrealistic, irrational sort of belief that, you don't have the resources or you don't have any knowledge and you're just like, okay, I want to do this. No, take stock of what you know, but
Yeah.
believe in yourself, because that is what is going to get you ahead. Time and again in my journey, I have been told no. It's not that I have not been told no. And time and again in my journey, I've also been made to feel that, somebody else could have done it better, or somebody else deserved to be there better. But I worked for it, and that is why I was there and not the other person, right? So why did that happen? Because of the belief in oneself that I can do it. I don't have to be the best. So to all the women, I do want to put this thing across that you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be good enough with your skills, with your expertise, and you need to have that belief, that faith in yourself that you can do it. So that is the first point. Secondly, I think it's important to set realistic goals.
Mhm.
Let's not try and have very unrealistic, unachievable goals, because then, you'll just drop out of your journey way more quickly than you would if you were setting realistic targets. So set realistic targets, you decide what fits you for your field, because I believe each one of us knows our caliber and our field the best.
Yeah.
So take that call, set realistic goals, and seek support. I think the third thing I want to also tell is seek support. Don't be scared or afraid or embarrassed even to, ask for help, ask for jobs, ask for support from other people, because I think people are ready to help. It's just that you have to ask for help. You can't just sit there and hope that, okay, help will come now that I am doing this.
Yeah.
No, put yourself out there and just ask for it. So these three things I would like to share with everybody who wants to start an entrepreneurial journey, or even maybe just push themselves out of their comfort zone for something new.
That's actually excellent because, sometimes we just don't reach out. We feel that, okay, I need this, but, we hesitate or don't have the confidence. I think getting out of that is so, so critical because unless you tell
Yes.
people that you need help, how are they going to give it to you? Yeah.
Yes.
So, Shobhika, we all have the personal side to our lives and then we have the professional side. But as you pointed out earlier, also, society expects a tad more from women, not a tad, actually, a lot more from women than it does from men. So, keeping those societal expectations in mind or in view, how do you balance the two sides of your life?
Well, first of all, I believe that balance is not static. It's a process to constantly keep trying to achieve it. And it's a very subjective call that we all need to take about when to prioritize what.
Yeah,
So I also don't feel that there has to be this one rigid rule
yeah,
that, for example, Monday to Saturday, I will do this, but Sunday, I will absolutely not do anything work related, or vice versa.
yeah,
The point here is that um, you have to keep the balancing act on. It will never stop.
yeah,
Feel free to take your breaks when it gets too much, rest, and then come back to it.
yeah.
So take a call based on the subjective concern on hand. So, as I was giving an example earlier, even if I have a case full of therapy sessions scheduled for a day, and there is something that is required for my son, which I know that nobody else could probably be there for,
Mhm.
I have to cancel this and I have to choose the personal life.
Of course.
There are times when clients reach out for emergencies, and no matter what you might be doing personally, sometimes there is an emergency, you have to be there. So then the professional takes over the personal. As much as possible, I do try that, like I have, for example, a very strict cutoff from my therapy sessions on most days of the week, that after this I am not available,
Mm.
or I have a separate time set up for my admin related work when it comes to my counseling
Okay.
space. Because, and that comes in once all the personal things are taken care of for the day. My son's gone off to sleep, everybody in the house has fallen quiet. And
Mm.
then the admin, the entrepreneur in me wakes up and be like, okay, I have my 40 minutes to an hour now to take stock of what happened today, to prep for tomorrow. So, this is one way in which I balance out. I do tend to prioritize my clients and therapy work over uh, non obligatory social commitments.
Okay.
So, if let's say a random outing pops up when I have already committed myself to certain therapies for the day, I will choose my therapies and not, just go for the lunch that, oh, now I have a lunch come up and, or a social outing come up. So, hey, I can't do your session now. So, that's not what I do. But I think having a balance between how much time to give to work and how much of it is for your personal life, that definitely helps.
Yes, and you're right, being organized about what you have to do
Yes.
and prioritizing. That is so, so important. Knowing when to
Yes.
do what and being able to
Yes.
take a hard call if required. I mean, that's how we have
Yes.
to function. Okay. So life has its way of showing its ups and downs to us. And, many times we face setbacks or downs and when we are feeling like, just kind of not really nice and cheerful. So, but we still have to, show up. We still have to do what we have to do. So when you face something like that, how do you keep yourself motivated and on track?
I take one day at a time.
Okay.
That is my philosophy. We all have bad days, and so do I. Even psychologists who keep talking about how to deal with bad days have their own bad days. So I deal with one day at a time. Today's day has been bad, not productive. Maybe it made me feel sad about something. That's okay. Tomorrow is still going to be a new day.
Yeah.
So I look at it like that. And usually, as you were talking about, organization earlier, I am a very structured person, and I think that structure helps me exist uh, more contently as compared to, feeling um, all over the place or angsty. So, yes, I do look at it that way. So I think that really helps, because then if I have to just worry about tomorrow, I don't have to worry about what's going to happen next weekend. I can worry about the next weekend on Friday.
Yeah, yeah,
If I have like a huge family get together at my place um, on Tuesday, I probably would worry about it today just a little bit, prepare some things, but I'm going to properly attend to it on Tuesday morning. So
yeah,
taking one day at a time helps. And I really do believe that even if I'm not feeling good one day, it doesn't automatically mean that the rest of the days are going to be bad, which is a fallacy that a lot of people give into. So when I work with clients and they come into therapy, they have one bad day, one day when they're feeling low, that there's so much of overthinking involved about why did this happen, will this happen again, that our days, a bad days turn into bad weeks, into bad months.
yeah.
So one day at a time is good enough. Our mind can only handle that, I believe.
I think that's very good because then I think you also free up your mind space. First of all, you
Yes.
have that positive mindset that, okay, today is bad, tomorrow is not going to be. You believe in that. And then you try not to think about day after tomorrow and the week after and the month after. So, yes, you're allowing your mind that freedom to kind of just exist within today and not get too bothered about what may or may not happen in future. Yeah, that's, I think, a
Yes.
very, very good point you made. Okay, Shobhika, been there, done that. You have kind of followed your dreams, gotten to where you wanted to, and of course, I mean, more power to you. But what would you like to advise the young girls of today who are on the threshold of their personal and professional lives? I mean, what do you think are certain things they should definitely keep in mind going forward?
First of all, don't let anybody tell yourself that you can't do it.
Okay.
And there will be many of those voices, well meaning or ill intentioned, that will come along the way.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm saying believe in yourself and don't pay attention to the voices which tell you you can't do it. But also have like clear goals in mind. What
Yeah.
do you want to pursue? Why do you want to do something? I believe in today's time and age, there are so many times when we don't give a thought to what we want to do, and we just invariably absorb what others around us are doing, and we all want to do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
So be clear about what are you wanting to do, why is it that you want to do something. And I'm not just talking about professional goals, but even at the personal level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you could be mindful about how you are showing up for
Mhm.
yourself or the spaces that you are a part of, that is also automatically going to help you have a better balance between personal and professional lives. And clear goals, yes.
And where would you rate financial and emotional independence in this?
Very high. And I think once you are more mindful and you are clear about your goals, the emotional independence obviously comes in. And financial independence for women, I think it goes without saying that it's absolutely a non-negotiable aspect. Women must be financially independent. We are not talking of crores and crores, but you must know that if there is no source of income, or if there's nobody you can be financially dependent on for yourself, at least for 3 to 4 months you can run your house on your own, because that will give you enough time to figure out what to do next. So I think financial independence, everybody should definitely strive for it.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. You're right. It is a non-negotiable. It can't even be a question. Okay.
Yes.
So, we've come a long way, as we mentioned a while ago, that in terms of progress and development and education and women getting jobs, but still we are a long way from getting to that gender parity that we all are looking for or striving towards. So if you were to look around you, would you be able to identify, like, what do you feel are the barriers that still exist on that road to gender parity? The challenges which still exist despite everything that we are doing or we've done.
Right. See, historically, women, because of the gender, have been discriminated, right? On the points that you also mentioned. Things are changing, I would like to believe, but
Yes.
it's still, the systemic change is yet to be fully there, and it's yet to be consistent across industries, communities, cultures. So
Yeah.
discrimination still exists, but perhaps one, women need to start speaking up and asking for what they think is their due, more strongly, more firmly, without being told that it is wrong to do so. And when we bring into, when we talk about the society, we're also talking about all other genders in it. So I believe all genders, everybody has to come together, whether it is policy makers, whether it is women itself in the households, working spaces, where we have to be supportive of each other, where we have to acknowledge the discrimination that has existed not from yesterday or a month before, but it has just historically, across generations, decades, world over, it has just been there. So we have to acknowledge it, and maybe at a very individual level, while we can't change everything all at once, at an individual level, how am I or how are you supporting other women, whether it is women who are working in our homes, whether it is our colleagues, our team members at our workplaces, or maybe even people in authority, in power, who we tend to interact with.
Yeah.
What are we talking to them about, the changes that have to be brought in? So I think it's a very systemic change that we are looking at, and everybody will have to do their bit
Yeah.
to make things better than what they are right now.
Yeah. So not only awareness, but acceptance, acknowledgement of the fact that it is still there. And we have to
Yes.
work at it, and we have to do it collectively. It cannot be anybody
Yes.
alone. We together have to do it. Yeah, that is, of course,
Yes.
much required. Everybody has to play their role in that. So, related to this, what do you think platforms like these, where we get women together, where they get to
Mhm.
speak their minds, or in a way, we are enabling them to make their voices get heard? So, what is the role that you think these platforms can play?
I think these platforms are very important, primarily because when we listen to other women sharing their experiences, there is a connect that the listeners are going to feel. Maybe you don't connect with the whole of what is being shared, but
Yeah.
invariably you will find yourself connecting with a few points here and there. And there is a comfort that comes in knowing that somebody else is also out there who's gone through something similar, or who has worked hard to change their life or their situation. So it's kind of a message that comes across very indirectly, that if they can do it, I can do it too. And
Yeah.
that is what true empowerment is, right? So it is platforms like these which, if they can reach far and wide, they are very empowering, simply because of existing, and because of having people, having women come together and share. So we must thank you for that, for creating one such platform. But it is very important to
I
do so.
believe, I believe that is very, very essential, because, and especially when you hear another woman talk about something similar to what you've gone through, that I think resonates in so many different ways. You feel you're not the only one. And that gives you that sense of, being somebody there, like you're not the only one. And then, of course, you can find solutions, you can find remedies, because people are relating their experiences. They will definitely come up with something about how they did it, so you can get ideas from there. So yeah, that I feel, and that was actually the reason why I started this. So Shobhika, this is pretty much your area, mental health, and like you said, it is trending nowadays and people are talking about it, and I think trending in the right way, because everybody needs to acknowledge and work on this. But having said that, do you think that even when it comes to something like mental health, we don't see women's mental health being given as much priority as men's, or is it just a myth?
It's not a myth. You're absolutely right about it. Women's mental health issues are not given as much priority. I
Okay.
would like to believe, once again, here too, that things are changing. But if I could just quote a few examples, it is more women who show symptoms of anxiety, depression, and even chronic stress, but
Mhm.
few of them turn up in therapy settings.
Okay.
We also know that, our Mental Health Care Act has made provision for postpartum mental health services for women, but we
Mhm.
are far from achieving that goal yet. So
Hmm.
it's not that policymakers or general public is not aware,
Hmm.
or it's not that people or women don't go through mental health issues. We don't talk about it enough, especially when it comes to seeking help. There is a lot of stigma.
Yeah.
So a lot of women don't turn up into therapy settings, or they're often told that, they're just overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, they see it as, okay, maybe this is just a phase and it will pass.
Yeah.
We certainly need to do more for women's mental health. Um, it could be done in terms of awareness sessions, talks, podcasts like these. We need to write about it more. I have extensively written about women's mental health issues in a lot of magazines and newspapers,
Mm.
but there is a lot that, again, needs to be done collectively. It's not
Yes.
a one person work to do. And we need to have these spaces, where women can come in and talk about their mental health concerns without being stigmatized, or without being told that, oh, you're just thinking too much about it, forget it, or oh, forget it, these things are like that only. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So yes, to conclude again, it's not a myth. You're right. Women's mental health issues are not getting their rightful attention yet.
And sadly, society tries to normalize it. I mean, if we are going through such
Yes,
issues, they just say that, oh, you're not the only one. But even if I'm not the only one, it is not the right thing. I need to
yes,
address it and I need to treat it. So, yeah, I think, but again,
absolutely.
the awareness is coming. It is again slow, but I guess if we make slow and, slow steps like a drop in the ocean, I think we should get somewhere. Okay. So, a different question from all of these things that we've been talking about. So, a lot of people nowadays, in their late 40s, early 40s, whatever you may call, I mean, in their midlives, are starting to do things that are completely opposite to what they were doing earlier, which I term as midlife rebooting, where they decide that now, okay, I was a doctor for so many years, now I want to start writing, or I want to start singing, or I want to start baking. I mean, anything, but completely different from what they were doing earlier. So, what are your views on it, and why do you think this is happening?
All right. I think context is very important on this, because when we talk about midlife rebooting, which, as you pointed out, is trying to bring about significant changes in one's life during the middle adulthood age.
Yeah,
So, this is a time when, if you look at the context, women up until now were bombarded with expectations,
yeah, yeah,
expectation of motherhood, of taking care of a house, of being a good wife. Maybe they were also working outside of the house, but traditionally there have been a lot of responsibilities on women. And
yeah,
if you look at it, it is only mid 40s or later when women start to feel free, a bit more freer than usual, because now the children have grown up and they don't need them so much. There
yeah.
is a rhythm that has come into the life that they created after marriage.
Mhm.
And therefore, this is finally the time whereas women, we can look within and ask ourselves, what were those dreams or aspirations that I suppressed when
Yeah.
I so wanted to pursue them? And
Mhm.
that is why this is happening more and more now, where women are questioning what they want to do and
Mhm.
trying to bring about a shift in, whether it is their professional careers, or sometimes, in the personal spaces, we see people want to like move from bigger spaces to smaller ones, vice versa. And I think it's a good thing that is happening. There's nothing bad here that I see.
Mhm.
I just feel that uh, instead of just jumping into something new which you have not done before, even if you wanted to do it in the past, it's important for women to just take stock of, what are the resources available to them, what is realistic for them to do. The interest level matters a lot,
Yeah,
so do something because you are interested in it. And I think it's a good thing, just this rebooting is
yeah.
very empowering. And it can help individuals, particularly women, feel connected with themselves because they're finally choosing to do something that they wanted to do.
Yeah. And I also think, I mean, sometimes in this quest for all the material things in life, money, of course, you need all that. You can't survive without it. We just forget to add these little, maybe creative dimensions to our life, to our personalities. And I just feel that once you start doing this, you make yourself a fuller, a more wholesome person, because all those little gaps which were just cut and dried are now being filled with whatever your art and culture or whatever it is that you want. And I think they enrich you. So I feel that yes, it is a very good thing. And plus, there is so much exposure nowadays. I mean, so many people are doing so many different things. So you actually have, I mean, I think an information overload in terms of, what you can do. So yeah. Okay. So Shobhika, going forward, what do you think you want to be, say, maybe 10 years from now? What are your dreams and aspirations as a person, as a professional? I mean, where do you see yourself?
Well, I feel that in 10 years from now, I would like to see myself doing what I'm doing at the moment, which is my therapy work.
Mhm.
Perhaps reduce the number of hours I give into my therapy work right now that I do. But I think I just want to kind of normalize this, that it's okay to reach a certain point of your professional life or personal life and say that I'm content with it and I would not like this to change
Okay.
in the decade to come. And I
Mhm.
think right now, at least, that's where I am, where I'm just content with how things are personally and professionally. And at least at the professional front, I would say that I don't want this to change. I can see myself doing this for another decade or so. And
Mhm.
perhaps when I retire, I'll open a book cafe, which is an aspiration that research
My
suggests most
God.
psychologists have for their retirement life. So I'll
Okay.
probably do that too.
I don't believe it. So in case you want to do it, we'll join hands because this is one of my aspirations too. I am so enamored by the idea and I keep looking for places, I have this bucket list of visiting 500 bookstores in my lifetime. So wherever I
Oh,
go,
wow.
whichever part of the world I go to the bookstores. And yes, I also want to have a book cafe. So wow. So this connects us. All right. So
Lovely.
now we'll move to the rapid fire. Yes, all set?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So a simple one. How do you unwind after a long day?
I listen to music, I hug my child and sleep.
Oh, great. All right. So any favorite book or podcast that you have?
My favorite book at the moment is Ikagai. I've read it a couple of times already, and it's a very popular book which talks about the Japanese art of
Yeah.
living and stuff. The whole purpose of life, it rests on that concept. So I'm more of a book person, so I'm always reading 3 or 4 books. Right now, I'm reading Lahiri's Roman stories, but I'm also reading
Okay.
like a chick flick called The No Show, and I've just finished an ADHD book called Scattered Minds. So I'm constantly reading more than listening. So that's where I am at the moment.
All right. Next, what is your favorite productivity hack?
Routine and structure. I exactly know what my day is going to look like tomorrow,
Okay.
with a little scope of flexibility in it, that in case some things don't go as per plan, I also have that extra space.
Okay.
But routine and structure is my productivity hack.
Very good. And biggest challenge in your field today?
Everybody is a mental health professional, mental health expert rather.
Other, yeah.
And that kind of becomes a bit challenging because sometimes clients come into say, therapy saying, they saw a certain influencer's reel who spoke about a certain mental health issue and now they
Yeah.
think they have that issue. And I'm like, which influencer is this? Okay. That they don't have a degree or they don't have to have any business with psychology. But so that kind of becomes a little bit of a challenge these days.
I can understand. And finally, what do you believe in, nature or nurture?
Both. I
Both?
think I believe in both, but
Okay.
I would be more tilted towards nurture
Okay.
because I firmly believe that, it is our environment, our context that
Hmm.
plays a big role in shaping us, irrespective of where we are coming from or, the nature part. So nature has a role to play, but I'm more of like, I believe in both, but I think I'm tilted more towards nurture.
All right. Fine. So that brings us to the end of this rapid fire. And of course, you did very, very well.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you so much, Shobhika. It was indeed wonderful having you on the show. I mean, great insights, delightful conversation. And as I always say, and I think this is becoming an oft repeated line of mine that, no matter who I speak to, women from different parts of the world, different parts of India, different, backgrounds, in terms of education, anything that you may say, we may differ on various things, but the core remains the same. The same kind of
Yes.
challenges we face, the timing may be different, the extent, the gravity of the challenge may be different, but we all face them. And that is the thread which binds
Yes.
us all together. So thank you so much for being on
Absolutely.
the show.
Thank you for having me, and you've summarized it just perfectly. Thank you so much for having me here.
You're more than welcome.